What's up, guys? A little update. So I took the valve covers off last night. Last night was not a good night with this car, with this motor, unfortunately. So I put the bed plate back on with hopes of taking off the front timing cover last night as well. I took all the bolts off, but it wasn't coming off. And I was like, that's unfortunate. The seal opened up on the bottom, so I knew it was actually going to come off soon. But then it wasn't budging, so I figured there must be more bolts I'm not aware of. And sure enough, there are the bolts. They're under the valve covers, which required removing the cam adjusters. So at that point, I thought, you know what, let me just take off the cams and might as well do a full inspection. We'll take out the lifters and all that stuff, and we will learn how to retime the entire engine, because my plan was to take out the timing chains and replace the chains themselves, because I do have a new set. I wasn't going to avoid replacing or to avoid retiming the engine. But now that we're here, I might as well. I already have to retime anyways, so might as well replace the chains. I was also having a really concerning issue where, you know, once I had realized I had screwed up, I needed to take off some extra bolts. I tried putting the crank back at 48 degrees to get things in the right position for things to come out, but it wouldn't move. It got kind of stuck, and I thought that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so about that. It's now October 2024, and, well, this is back in December 2023. The car was running and driving, I would say, well by March 2023, and we were in kind of in good shape by then. But a lot has happened, and, well, this was kind of the beginning of one of my major issues where I made a huge mistake, which cost me a lot of time and some money, but mostly effort and time. Essentially what I did here is that when I moved the crank by hand, without having the timing chain actually under tension, the timing chain actually skipped a bit, and I did bend a couple valves by hand. That's right, I bent some valves by hand. So, started the engine up quite a while later, and surprise, surprise, no compression cylinder 4. Well, I'll explain this later as I go into detail about what I do here, because at this point in the project, I haven't actually figured this out yet. I'm hypothesizing on what could have gone wrong with regard to moving the engine and rotating it, but I actually didn't know until I had it back in the car and started it and was wondering why it ran horribly. So that'll come later in a future set of videos. This is taking me so long to edit because of how much content I recorded during this whole process. But please bear with me, guys. It's coming. And yeah, it is quite the doozy, because there is just a lot of work going into it and a lot of mistakes I made along the way, because I truly was learning as I was going. But thankfully the car is driving well at the moment. My dad's been daily driving it for the last more than a few months actually, and he's put several thousand miles on it without an issue. So I think we're in the clear, at least we are for now. But oh boy, was it a bumpy road. Is the timing off? I was so confused because I hadn't touched timing at all, but I figured when I was doing the bed plate, the crank may have moved a bit, or something was off, the chain was catching on something, and it wasn't moving. All I know is it freaked me out, and I was like, oh no, I just destroyed this $5,000 motor around that or whatever. But after I just kind of slept on it, it was 1 a.m., I was like, you know what, nothing to do about it now. Let's just figure it out tomorrow. But anyways, after talking to some friends this morning and last night, the verdict was, to be safe, let's just take the cams off, because all the valves will then be closed. We can then rotate the crank freely, but most likely what's happened is because I have slightly removed the timing cover, you can kind of see there's a bit of a gap here that wasn't there before. Because I've done that, it may have put the guides off kilter, or something might be stuck. The chain might be pinched in a weird place. As a result of which, it's not allowing it to spin freely, so best bet is just taking it all apart, without taking the heads off, obviously. And then taking off the front cover again, replacing the guides. Well, I never took the front cover off in the first place, but taking it off, replacing the guides, the chain, all that good stuff, putting all that together from scratch as if starting from nothing, and then we should be good to go. More work, but give you peace of mind that things will be timed correctly and we'll have no valve contact. Always good to do this stuff when you're unsure, because I sure as hell have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm making it work because I have no choice. Also may have had a little issue with a cam adjuster, but that's okay. But yeah, there's a reason some of this stuff is off camera. I wish I could show you guys the whole process, but my 128 gigabyte SD card cannot keep up with this because of how much I'm filming. I already have about 2 hours in the editor in the Final Cut Pro right now waiting to be edited. And that's not even including the first video that I already put out. So quite a lot to do here. I'm gonna get on with it. As for removing things, again, not really recording stuff because things are technically not in the right place to be removed. So things are a bit janky. If you're at 40 degrees, which is top dead center, things will come off pretty easily as they're meant to come off. I'm not at 40 degrees. 40 degrees is down here. So I'm just gonna take them off kind of slowly. I'm basically working my way. I take off the cam adjusters first, which has proven to be an issue given by my hand. Basically what happened is when I took the bolts off, they're a bit crooked. You kind of have to force it off without, really doing any damage. And well, yeah, I cut my hand on these sprockets pretty badly, and they're pretty deep, but it's okay, we're doing fine. Gotta take those off first. Then starting at the middle, I started taking off the caps over here. And what's very important about this is because we're not at top dead center as well, there may be excess pressure on the cams. So for example, right over here, we can see the cams are facing the lifters head on right there. There's gonna be a lot of pressure on this cap as a result of that. This one doesn't look like it's too bad. It's not gonna be as annoying as this one was. For me, one of them was like that on that side, so you just have to be very careful and slowly remove those caps. Again, not gonna show this because it's not what you'll be seeing if you're doing it correctly. I am not doing it correctly, I'm kind of winging it, but it's gonna be okay because we'll be starting from fresh anyways. So with that being said, I'm gonna keep going. And hopefully it's not because I messed up the torque with the bed plate and it's too tight. I don't think it is because I followed those specs pretty closely, as you could see by my lovely chart, which was messy but was effective. But yeah, guys, I'll be back when I have these guys out and we can take the timing cover off, okay? All right, we've got all the bolts off the front cover, aside from the ones with the pulleys that just go through the cover and now all the way to the block. But we are pretty much ready to tap this thing off of here. We gotta reseal this as well, same way we sealed the bed plate. Still have the oil pan off, both oil pans rather. And of course I forgot when I flipped the motor and I totally made a mess on the ground, but let's not worry about that right now. Let me try and get this front cover off. Okay, all the bolts are out, which means this guy should come off. Keyword is should, so let's see. There we go. Oh, yeah. Would you look at that? Alrighty, let's put you away somewhere. Remember this broken rubber piece from the pickup tube we found earlier? Well, that came from right there. You can kind of see right in the middle. It's missing that right there. So that's where that came off of. And now we know. All right, so we'll be changing out all the timing chain guides and the timing chain itself. Also the oil pump chain. We'll have to be changing that out later. I'm gonna take this off first, of course, because there's an oil pump on right now. What I might do before putting the engine back upside down is I'll probably put the oil pump on just from below. It is going pretty straightforwardly. It's kind of heavy, but it should be fine before I flip it over. And then I will get the chain and guide sorted out for that. This way it's already good to go for when we put the upper oil pan back on and everything. But we gotta take off these drifts over here. You need a special tool for that. You can either make your own or you can use something like this I found on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below, so you can check that thing out. It is pretty useful to have. Pretty simple how it works. This thing just basically threads into the drift. It comes with a variety of sizes for different Mercedes engines. This is just the one that happens to fit with the 156. You stick it in there, you tighten it, you just tighten down this nut, and it'll pull the drift out as you go. There are 4 of those in total, so 1, 2, and then 2 on that side as well. Looks like the air pump line might be in the way. I was trying to avoid taking that off, but looks like I will not be taking that off, which is no problem. What's next? After that, we'll basically put in each new guide one by one. Be sure to take note of kind of how things are positioned. But we also have to take off these sprockets over here to take off the timing chain from here, because we have to lower the chain through there in order to take it off the sprocket. That can be kind of challenging without the proper tool, which I do not have right now at the moment. But essentially you can see there's a tiny little Allen screw in there you have to take out first. And then once that's out, there are some threads here. You're supposed to put a fitting in here and then have a slide hammer to pull it out. I, unfortunately, as you can clearly tell, don't have that. So what I might do is just buy a bolt of that specific size and then get some washers and then just kind of thread a nut on there and tighten it down. Same principle as this, but that'll slowly pull it out. One thing that we should also do is, because we know that rubber piece came off of here, we should just take a look at all the rubber on there and make sure things are doing okay. If they're cracking, let's just take it off. I'll clean up the surface of that one over there that already came off. But overall, things are looking pretty good. Just need to get a proper bolt for this. And yeah. All right, so let's talk about removing the timing chains and timing chain guides once you, of course, have that front timing cover off. So, it is not the most straightforward process in the world. It does actually require two special tools. Now, I only have one of those two special tools, and for the second part, I kind of just worked out something that I'll show you guys the next one. So, you need one special tool to remove the pins that hold in the sprockets that kind of keep the chain near the heads, where the cam adjusters connect to. As you can see, mine's all loose right now because I have actually removed that pin. This is what that pin looks like. There's a little 5mm Allen in the very inside of that thing, and you can see there's some threads here. Now, what you're supposed to do is supposed to thread in an M24 by 1.5 bolt and use a slide hammer to remove it. Now, an M24 by 1.5 bolt is near impossible to find, at least in the US, because we do live in the SAE customary system. Even in the stores that had metric bolts, M24 was the highest they went to, but they would have a 3.0 sort of thread pitch. So nothing would work for this. You need to buy the special tool for this. But what I did is very carefully, I basically took a large, either flathead screwdriver or a pry bar, and I basically lined this whole thing with a microfiber towel, and also lined the hole over there with some towels, pretty thick actually, and I very gently pulled after I removing that 5mm Allen screw, and it just sort of popped out slowly. Now, you do have to hold that sort of, the whole sprocket straight to make sure you can come out nice and evenly, otherwise it'll get kind of stuck. But that was a solution to getting that thing out, because otherwise I would not be changing the chain right now. I'd be stuck just putting the things back together with new guides. Anyways, I'll show you guys that process on that side primarily. But for now, let's take off some of the pins for the guides. Also, be sure to take a picture, at least make sure you know what this all looks like before taking it apart, so you can mimic exactly what it should look like. All right, so right here is one of the 4 pins I'm going to remove. So what we got to do is take our special tool now. We have to thread it in very nice and slowly. Pretty much as far as you can go. Nice. All right, now we're going to tighten this bolt down until it reaches contact with the head. Perfect. Now I'm going to grab a wrench, and we can start wrenching away and get that pin out of there. You can see it's starting to come out, which is just what we want. Should probably be careful because I've already removed that top piece, that this doesn't fall. Let's see. Looks like we're almost there. Yep, here comes the pin. Pin is out, which means our guy can just come right off. Look at that. Let this guy out. There we go. And there's our sprocket, which connects to the head. On a side note, I love that there's little details, little AMG logos in every single piece. Pretty crazy to think about all the little details everywhere, but one thing I've noticed with this project is even the smallest of parts have an AMG logo on it, which is kind of funny. All right, now it's time to take out the timing sprocket, or the chain sprocket, on the passenger side or right side of the motor. And you can see in the middle there, you can kind of see there, that is where a 5mm Allen lives. I'll zoom in there so you can kind of get a better look. Hard to see still, but just trust me, it's there. I'm going to remove that right now, and then we'll get into the process of actually taking that cap out, which, like I said, requires a special tool, but we'll be doing it a different way. There's the 5mm Allen. Now this is where the fun really begins, in my opinion, because we kind of have to pry this thing out. Now, we don't want to damage any of the surface here, and if we do, we'll need to sand it down and make sure it's not going to interfere with the gasket surface there, but Let's hope just not to damage that at all. But using this method can be kind of risky, so please be very careful by doing this. Basically, I'm going to shove in a towel. What I want to do is get a pry bar on the threads of that pin. All right, gonna line this guy up. And as we're doing this, you want to be also holding on to a bit of the sprocket itself. All right, and there we go. It's almost out. There we go. Now we got to be careful because that sprocket is holding the entire chain. So, gotta kind of grab it from this side. There we go. If you guys like this video and all my content so far, check out sta-industries.com and check out all the German car apparel I have, especially M156 stuff. I have license plate frames, cool hoodies, sweaters, high quality stuff with nice embroidery. Check it out, you won't regret it. I'm always posting new stuff on the website, including ML stuff coming soon, specifically ML63 engine rebuild stuff, as it's pretty relevant to what I'm doing right now. But yeah, check out what I already got in there. Lots of cool M156 stuff that I really enjoy wearing while I work on my cars. There is also other Mercedes stuff already up there, like for my SL500, M119 stuff, including a lot of BMW apparel as well, so go check it out.